Mr. West, I believe you have been previously sworn in this matter.
Yes, sir.
I have just a few questions in regard to your specific observations. Your property, looking at the map that was previously used as an exhibit, I believe surrounds Mr. Gutherie's property on 3 sides. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the other area of your property boundaries is surrounded by the Metropolitan Sewage Treatment property.
One section of it is, yes.
And I guess that would be, and the road that we're speaking of, the Hidden Falls Road, a portion of your property does abut the road.
And it is, it is pretty.
Now, you were present throughout the testimony of the other witnesses, is that correct? And during the course of the testimony, do you recall testimony pertaining to noises and odors emanating from Mr. Raines' property?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay. In your observations, have you ever heard any unusual or extraordinary noises coming from the property of Mr. Raines?
No, sir.
Okay. In your observations on your property, have you observed extraordinary or unusual noises emanating from any adjoining properties?
Yes, sir.
What was the nature of those noises?
It was explosions, backup alarms, heavy equipment, asphalt smells, and that is coming from the quarry and the APEC plant.
Okay. From your property, what is the approximate distance to the APEC quarry?
I'm not entirely sure, but I don't believe it's more than probably more than half a mile.
Okay. Now, the asphalt the asphalt smell that you spoke of, was that asphalt smell associated with Mr. Raines' property?
No, that was before he ever moved in.
Okay. Other than the vehicles that Mr. Raines uses in the business, A Quality Paving, have you observed any other vehicular traffic associated with the use of Mr. Raines' property?
No, sir.
Now, other than his exiting those vehicles and returning on a daily basis, or presumably a daily basis, is there any other vehicular traffic associated with use of Mr. Raines' property associated with the business?
No, sir. Not that I've seen.
Thank you.
Josh, do you have any questions?
I have no question.
Does the board have any questions?
No.
You're not in Queens, so you're not live across.
Folks will be right across
I'd like this time to call Mr. Raines.
My name is Robert Raines. Last name spelled R-A-I-N-E-S, Ms. Phillips.
Mr. Raines, where do you reside?
I live at 111 Hidden Falls.
Okay, that is the address of the property in question.
That is, sir.
Do you have any other residences that you occupy?
Did I live at?
Yes, sir.
No, sir. I only have one mobile home. It was all I could afford at the time.
Okay. Now, you say you only have one mobile home.
I got one mobile home that's in Candler at 133 Shelby Drive that my brother lives at.
Okay. So you own the property at 111 Hidden Falls Drive,
Yes, and I live there.
and you live there. And what is the nature of the improvements on that property?
When I took it over, there was so much trash. I mean, it had been a rundown trailer for approximately 7 years. Everybody from the road had dumped all their leaves, their clippings, their brush. I mean, I'll be honest, they was so drug infested. It was a rundown trailer for 7 years. It looked like a ex-crack house. I mean,
When did you purchase this property?
I purchased this property last year on November the 2nd from Mr. Randy Reynolds.
And subsequent to your purchase, did you cause to be removed from the property an old mobile home?
I did. I took pictures to Miss Phillips to get removal, put my mobile home there, and took pictures where I tore down the old mobile home.
And did you cause to be placed on this property another mobile home?
I did put back a mobile home under the deadline. Miss Phillips gave me 180 days.
Okay. And the mobile home that you put back on, is that a double wide mobile home?
No, sir. It's a single wide.
Now, is that mobile home used for any purpose other than your residential dwelling?
No, sir.
Is there any portion of the improvements located on your property that's used for business purpose?
Repeat the question.
Is there any portion of the improvements located on your property? Well, let me rephrase the question so you better understand. Is there any portion of your mobile home that's used for business purpose?
No, sir.
You have a shed located on the property, do you not?
When you live in a mobile home, you ain't got but about 1,000 square feet. Everybody needs a utility building.
Okay. And what is the use that you make of this utility building?
I've got my daughter's 13-year-old daughter's baby clothes packed up in it. I've got it packed to the roof full of stuff because we only have 1,000 square feet to live in.
Would you classify that primarily as residential storage?
100%.
Okay. Do you use it for any business purpose whatsoever?
I've got my lawnmower and weed eater in it. I live there.
Now, you have a paved parking area on this property, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, do you use any portion of this paved parking area for business purpose?
I park trucks there.
Okay. What entity owns the trucks?
Robert Raines, the
Okay,
guy
is that-
sitting there owns them.
Are those vehicles licensed and registered in your name individually?
I pay the Buncombe County property taxes and the Buncombe County tag every year.
Okay. My question is, are they registered in your name individually?
They're registering in Robert Raines, and their vehicle on my property is registered in A-Quality Paving.
Okay. I'm going to ask this question. You probably answered that. Is there any portion of the equipment, the trucks and vehicles that are parked on your property that are registered or titled in the name of A-Quality Paving?
There's not one single thing on my property titled, registered in A-Quality Paving, and there's never been a customer to my property, period.
Well, if you'll let me ask the questions instead of volunteering. Do you solicit business at your property?
No, sir.
Do you have customers that visit your property?
No, sir.
Have you ever had a customer, to your knowledge, visit the property since you purchased it in November?
No, sir.
Do you do any advertising associated with the address of this property in conjunction with your business?
I don't even have a mailbox at the end of the road.
Okay. Does your company have a business telephone? Does A-Quality Paving Company have a business telephone?
Yes, sir.
And what is that telephone number?
828-667-9533.
And where is that telephone answered?
It is answered at 46 Jarrett Street. My mother, Joyce Helton.
Okay. And where is Jarrett Street?
It is in Asheville, North Carolina, off Haywood Road.
Okay. Now, other than that telephone, do you use any other telephone in conjunction with your business?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Do you have a cell telephone number?
I got a cell phone.
And how is that cell phone? How is that? Who is the customer identified on the cell telephone?
Excuse me?
What company do you have cellular service with?
U.S. Seller.
Okay. And who is the customer that does business with U.S. Cellular?
Robert Raines.
Okay. Is that cell phone in any way connected to your business?
Yes, sir. I mean, it's my cell phone. I don't want to lie. You know, it's my cell phone. I mean, I use it. I use it for personal reasons. I mean, my 13-year-old daughter's got it. But, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's not my business line. My 667 number is in the phone book.
If a customer desires to get in touch with the business A-Quality Paving, how would they get in contact with that business?
They would call my mother's they would call the 667 number. It's a satellite number. It's not actually. AT&T has a thing where if you pay $7,000 a year advertisement, you can't lose your number. So you have a number that's locked in. I can't lose my number. It's a number that is in the yellow pages, but it rings at my mother's house. It's like through satellites, I guess is how you explain it.
Okay. And then subsequent to the customer contacting that number and discussing with either your sister or mother, then how are you contacted then on behalf of the business?
I contact them back and then set up an arrangement to come out and give them a free estimate.
Okay, but how do you learn to contact them back?
Through my mother.
Okay. Now, I'm going to hand you a document, a business card. Do you recognize that card?
Yes, sir.
And what is the card?
It's an A-Quality Paving business card.
And
Yes, sir.
how long have you had that particular form of business card?
Since 2004.
Okay. Now, since you purchased this property in November of 2010, have you had business cards redone or reordered?
No, sir.
Okay, is that the card you continue to use?
Yes, sir. Been using this same card since 2004.
Does that in any way reflect or have any indication of any connection of A-Quality Paving with the property at 111 Hidden Falls Drive?
No, sir.
We would move to introduce that business card into evidence.
If I could see it first. Just a question, Mr. Raines. Is this fax number on the business card? Where is that?
It's at American Speedy Printing because can't afford it. If you call them now, it's going to ring at American Speedy Printing on Patton Avenue. And next to the post office, they send their faxes to that number at American Speedy Printing, and we pay $2.
Can we see that card too, please?
Yeah, no, that's fine, but is this the only, do you want us to make a copy, or can you keep this?
You can keep it. Robert, do you have 12?
Yeah, I have no objection to that being entered. So.
I got 12 with me.
We can pass it down here.
Mr. Raines, on a typical business day when you are operating your paving business, would you describe the typical activities associated with the use of your property at 111 Hidden Falls Drive?
My typical use would be to park trucks there. I got 2 employees that come up the road, Miss Green and the ones that's testified. They're my neighbors, and I've went and put mufflers on all these trucks, and I've tried to be as
Mr. Raines,
neighbor-friendly.
respond only to my questions, please.
Okay, the 3 trucks in reference to coming in and out there every
Okay.
day.
Are those the 3 trucks that you testified to that were your personal trucks?
They are listed in my personal name. They
Now-
are my personal trucks.
Do you have employees with your business?
Yes, sir.
How many employees do you have?
2.
Are those employees related to you?
One of them's my sister. Yeah.
Now, do they live on this property with you?
No, sir.
Do they operate the vehicles, the 3 vehicles that you have testified to that are your personal vehicles that are used in your business?
Yeah, me and 2 more of them come out there each morning. Me and them 2. Yeah.
All right. So the 2 employees you have operate those vehicles,
Yes, sir.
and you operate the vehicles.
Yes, sir.
In a typical day, would you describe the vehicular activity associated with your business, and in particular the trucks that you use in that business?
We only work a Monday through Thursday scheduled week, and when we got on this road, we agreed with the Levinses to start it after the school buses leave. So we leave out at 8 o'clock approximately in the morning after they go to school at 8 o'clock on Monday through Thursday, and we're back in at whenever we're done. We can't pave in the dark, so we're always back before it gets dark. Sometimes she's correct. We might get off at 2:30. We might get off at 3:30. We might get off at 4:30. But the only thing is APAC closes at 5, so you're stuck getting off by 6. You're home and off the road by 6 o'clock.
Do your 2 employees operate vehicles to come to your property?
Yes, sir.
And what do they do with those vehicles?
They park them in my driveway, and we leave.
Okay. Now, in the typical day, do you always return with the 3 trucks?
No, there's sometimes they might not see them for 3 or 4 days because we go from job to job. There's at times they don't see our trucks for several days. When it rains for 4 or 5 days, there's no activity. We have been blamed numerous of times by MSD's activity too on this road, and we got pictures just to substantiate that.
Okay. Now, do you recall, since you have been there, activity involving the exiting and the return of the vehicles on more than one occasion during any one day?
Repeat the question.
Do you recall, during the period of ownership of your property since November of 2010, other than when you were making improvements to your property and doing the paving on this property, do you recall of any day in which vehicular traffic, your vehicles, have exited and returned on more than one occasion during the day?
No, not this one time, go in, out, and come back in, no. After the construction phase and after we rounded neighbors up and thought all of them was calmed back down, there was no more construction done, period. In other words, there's been a lot of paving up there. And the only person in this room that's paid for any asphalt is me. I've worked on that road numerous of times this year, and there's nary one in this room contributed to $1 on the road. I've paid for all the asphalt, and have told them plain that I will continue the maintenance to the road, and they don't have to contribute $1 to it. So, I mean, I've tried to be as neighbor as I could. They don't got to do $1 of maintenance and on the road. I'm confused.
Well,
I'm confused.
Mr. Raines, let's talk about the dumpster that's on your property. What use do you make of this dumpster?
I've been in the paving business for several years and worked at other companies in this area. They don't know it, but anytime you have a Waste Pro or GDS, it destroys these subdivisions, it destroys these private roads. If you have one come every 2 weeks, like I'm doing, they're doing it every week. They have trash pickup. Multiple trash cans out on the single road, sticking out on the single road. It's already a private road, and they're all complaining, but the trash cans up done. I do it every 2 weeks. It's $65 every 2 weeks for a half-yard dumpster. My theory today is we'll get rid of the dumpster. We'll get rid of the dumpster. We'll get 2 cans with them. We've done put mufflers.
Mr. Raines,
we
please.
want to try to cooperate.
Listen to my question. What use do you make of the dumpster?
I put my household trash in.
Okay. Do you have business trash associated with the A-quality paving that you, on a regular basis, dump into this dumpster?
Just cleaning out the trucks, like people's lunch bags and, of course, drink cans constantly. Everybody knows that is. Just like, household garbage. Drink cans, lunch bags, they leave them under the seats, everywhere. That kind of trash goes in, constantly. It's a half dumpster. Now, it ain't no big, you do know it ain't a full-fledged dumpster. It's a half dumpster, so.
It's a half yard.
Is that correct? That'd be a 6-yard dumpster.
Mr. Raines, I'm going to hand you photographs. I'll ask you, first of all, do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do. It was taken on August the 12th when my father-in-law was at chemotherapy radiation. August the 12th. This picture of this year.
This year.
This year.
And were you present when the photograph was taken?
I'm the one who took the photograph.
All right, there are a lot of trucks, large trucks, tractor trailers in that photograph. Are those your vehicles?
None of them. I come out of my house at 7:30 in the morning, and I woke up with this right in my front yard. And I do go through this on a regular basis with MSD. I go through this day in and day out. Track hose, backhoes, water, rent for all these are rain for rent trucks. Every one of them.
Okay. Do you know if the use of these vehicles is associated with the MSD property?
Absolutely, they're MSDs.
I'm going to move to introduce this for illustrative purposes only.
And I will clarify for the board, if you refer to the memo that I submitted to the board, there was at least one instance where I received a call and MSD's traffic was attributed to Mr. Raines. So that's my rationale for accepting these photographs.
Mr. Raines, I've handed you a series of photographs. And I'll ask you first of all to look at the photographs and then I'll ask questions.
Steve, could you speak in the microphone? If you want to come up and you can walk.
I should probably do that too. You can walk with the microphone, but you need to speak into it. Thank you.
Mr. Raines, do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, sir.
And do you know who the photographer was that took those photographs?
That would be Robert Raines.
Okay, that would be you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you know on or about when these photographs were taken?
These were taken in the month of August.
August of what year?
August of 2011.
Okay, 2011 or 2012?
This
This-
is
excuse me.
to August of this year.
This year, thank you. Obviously not 2012.
Correct.
I'm sorry. Now, again, for illustrative purposes, most of the vehicles that are depicted in those photographs, are those your vehicles?
No, sir.
And do you know what property the usage of those vehicles was associated with?
Yes, sir. But they was trying to get in the gated MSD, but it's locked now.
Okay, were these photographs taken on the same date the larger photograph was taken?
No, different one. No, different days. It's all through the month of August. This went on day and night.
We'll move to introduce these for illustrative purposes only.
And Mr. Bonwell, if I could ask you to look at a photograph and just make you aware that the board has already received similar photographs submitted by Mr. Raines in his June 17th response.
Mr. Barnwell, what is the relevance of these MSD trucks? Could you get to that?
Well, may I respond to that in my summary argument? And that's all the questions I have in regard to the photographs. It's just I wanted to demonstrate the fact that this road is being used by other vehicles much heavier than the vehicles being used by Mr. Raines, and that, as the staff has pointed out, that some of the traffic that was attributable to Mr. Raines has been incorrectly attributable to him. It's like the noise. The noise, from from the witness testimonies is coming from the quarry and not the property of Mr. Raines. Just to refute what has been previously testified to. That's the relevancy. That's all I have. Thank you.
I just have a question for Mr. Raines. You stated that you paved the road surrounding the property. Did you provide services to anyone here today? And could you name those individuals to anybody you provide any kind of paving or paving-related services to?
I've paved on the, do you mean on the private road?
Or any individual residents that you...
I've paved a strip connecting the road where it's washing out to Mr. West's house. I've paved the entrance way to wherever one of them was running off the side where it comes off New Stock. Every single one of them's got access to numerous of free paving up and down the road.
But Mr. West is the only individual.
No, every individual in the room's using the free pavement on the road. All of them have to use the road to get to their house, and none of them in this room has gave $1 on any maintenance on the road, and I've done thousands of dollars worth of work on the road this year.
Does that sufficiently answer your question? Give me just 1 second. I think you may have already stated this, but do employees come to your property in the morning before a job?
Two.
Two.
I have 2 employees, sir. Not before a job. 2 come to pick up trucks that are parked in my house.
And do employees leave their personal vehicles on your property?
Yes, 2.
Are those captured in any of the photographs?
Absolutely.
Could you identify those
Yes.
vehicles by make and model?
Picture in front of me.
Just do you know the make and model?
Not offhand. No, I do not.
And you do store vehicles related to your business on the property?
No, I have my personal vehicles on the property.
Any type of paving equipment or any related?
I have a trailer behind my vehicle, but it's where I park my vehicles at.
And what's you typically haul on a trailer?
I have a roller on one trailer, but it's a utility trailer, a 6x8 trailer. The other is a tractor. I have a tractor on my property.
And coming and going to the site, do the employees operate the vehicles that are registered to
There's
yourself?
3 trucks that leave in and out of that road, Monday through Thursday only.
And those are your vehicles?
They are my personal vehicles registered to Robert Raines.
In terms of your business, your attorney already alluded to this, but if you have one location for your business in terms of record keeping, accounting, any auxiliary services that are used in day-to-day asphalt operations, where is that conducted at?
Excuse me, repeat the question.
The record keeping, any accounting that's done?
My
through-
accounting is Delta Accounting. I'd have to refer her to refer you to Delta Accounting. I don't have an accounting degree, sir.
So is there any record keeping or any files kept at your?
Yes, it down in accounting on Leicester Highway.
But no business transactions take place on the property?
I have
of
never had a
111?
customer at my house ever, sir.
Okay, but I'm asking, not necessarily customers, but any type of
I've
business.
never had any business transaction. I've never had money change hands. I don't have no bathrooms, no handicap parking. I've paved a lot of businesses. I don't even got a mailbox leading. I don't even have a mailbox at 111 Hidden Falls on the main road or at my house.
Does that sufficiently address the question? So where does he run his business?
He asked or you asked?
Well, we're trying to be, Mr. Raines, we're trying to be fair and.
But I feel like David and Goliath here. You didn't let me do that. You
M-
called me.
Mr. Raines, just answer questions, please.
Okay.
Since they don't have an attorney present, we're attempting to go back and forth without allowing someone to
Okay.
cross-examine you. So can you answer the question, if you had to say your business?
If I had to conduct business, I would conduct it at where I was paving at that day. Monday, I was paving at Laurel Ridge in Black Mountain. When I paved David Gant's law office, I would have been at David Gant's law office when I paved it. When I paved Al Messer's law office, I'd have been at Al Messer's. If I paved for Bojangles, I'm at Bojangles. They don't make asphalt at 111 Hidden Falls.
Okay, and I think the question specifically deals with, earlier in the testimony, someone brought into question where you're registered with the Secretary of State's office. Could you speak specifically to that?
I'm registered with the Secretary of State at 133 Shelby Drive, Candler, North Carolina 28715. That property is owned by Mr. Matthew Eggleston. I have permission to have that mailbox there, and he, I have permission from the property owner, and I've never had a complaint with the zoning board or anybody else for that matter.
Okay. I think that's sufficiently addressed. And the other question, when you're cleaning your equipment, can you describe the nature of that operation?
There's no equipment allowed to be cleaned on my property, because if you did, anybody who's been in asphalt would notice, if you was to leave a job, say in Black Mountain, and go to 111 and then start cleaning asphalt, you wouldn't have no equipment. It'd be locked up. Asphalt sets up. If you don't clean it out on the job, clean it out. There's no way. But all year long, 240's been paved at nighttime. I live a half a mile from APAC. My property joins with the Stone Quarry, MSD, and APAC.
Well, the question specifically was,
I've never cleaned no equipment in my house. After the construction process, there's not been no kind of noise down there, period. I live down there, so.
Okay. Let me just double check and make sure I've got all my questions. I think that sufficiently answers all my questions.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Raines?
Well, I don't think so. Good.
Let's go back to your residence on this property. Do you have a phone in that residence at all?
No, sir.
Okay, so we understand that. Do you do any email or internet communications?
No, I don't know. I only went to school to the 8th grade, but my wife does all that stuff,
But there's not a computer in there?
I mean, she has a computer for my daughter to do homework.
Yeah.
We're not,
That's in the trailer?
yes, sir.
Do you ever get any business-related emails?
No, sir, we do that. It's American Speedy Printing, because I don't know how to do that, sir. I mean,
Okay, but does anybody?
no business activity whatsoever, sir.
Have you ever made a call on your cell phone while in that trailer to one of your customers?
Sir, I don't recall. I mean, I'm sure I've made a phone call in my vehicle riding up and down the road. I may have even made a...
No, I'm asking you, have you ever made a business?
I don't have no
call?
phone service inside the mobile home, no.
You have a cell phone. You told-
It don't pick up inside the trailer, sir. It just don't work because of the metal roof. The phone, like, you got to go outside to use the cell phone where I live, sir.
Okay, you're testifying that the cell phone doesn't work in your mobile home.
It don't work correctly in my mobile home.
Can I add just a clarification on that? So on your property, you never use a cell phone talking business?
Yes, I've used my cell phone many a times on my property.
Oh, okay.
Many times, sir.
Yeah. I'll do a few. Okay, so you say you own how many vehicles?
I don't recall how many vehicles is registered in my name, but I own 5 or 6 vehicles, sir. But
Okay.
only 3 is in conjunction with the business.
Okay, so you have no vehicles separate from the ones that are in your name that are for business?
Yes, I got several, a Camaro, a Chevy Camaro separate.
No, I meant the other way around. I meant all those vehicles that you say are your personal vehicles, you have no other vehicles that aren't your personal vehicles that you conduct your paving business
I
with?
feel like them 3 trucks that go up down the road parked there, or I work in them vehicles, but my neighbor comes home in his work vehicle.
There's
He's talking about work vehicles.
5 in this picture, and they all have signs on them for A1 paving.
2 of them ain't even been started in months, and we was instructed, we figured just throw the magnets
Okay.
away. The magnets is melted on one, it's got 220-some thousand miles on it.
Why would you have registered your name vehicles that you're not even using?
On the one in the green truck, we just use it, drive it in the winter, it's got 200-some thousand miles on it, and we only drive it in the winter, it's 4-wheel drive. The white dually, we just got it this year, but it's never had an employee in it, sir. We just got it as a backup vehicle. It was destroyed, and we cleaned
So
it up.
you own insurance on all these vehicles?
No, sir, I have insurance on every single vehicle in Buncombe County,
Okay.
and I pay property tax on them.
So you have 7 or 8 vehicles you own, you're all registered in your name, you have insurance on them, but you're only using 2 or 3 of them for your business?
I only use 3 vehicles, sir. It's the truth.
Just out of curiosity, I can't afford that. I mean, how
I'm
do
not.
you afford it?
I'm concerned. Here's my thing with that. My vehicles on my property, the 2 that I don't use, sir. I just need to, when I leave, I'm just going to throw the magnets away. The magnets is melted on them. If you look closely in the picture, I might as well just throw the magnets away. I mean, I'm not using them. I'm not. Even they'll testify that I'm not driving up the road with them. I've heard that several times. They'll even testify there's only been 3 vehicles.
So you say you don't really have like a physical place for your business?
Yes, 133 Shelby Drive.
Okay, but for vehicles, like you said, you don't have any
My stuff
Business
was at Easy Storage for 4 years, and I have a police report where every year it was broke into. They stole my concrete saws, they stole my backpack blowers, and I got police reports showing it.
You just answered some of the gaps. I'm
Okay.
kind of trying to picture. I have this business, and it's paving, and a paving business has a lot of materials and things like that. You don't use your
You have no materials. Okay, go ahead.
You don't use your residence to discharge garbage, etc. Where do you get rid of all the excess and residue and garbage? And
You can only dump asphalt legally at APAC. It's 100% green, the stimulus money. It's 100% recycled. You can only dump your mix at APAC. You can dump free there. You can pay to dump it or dump it back at APAC for free. So my advice is to dump it there for free.
I understand that. That makes sense. But what I'm understanding,
There's no such thing as residue.
Mr.
So you're
Raines.
saying there's no other garbage generated from a paving business than just that?
So the asphalt is the only thing that you work with. I mean, that's all that, you know what I'm saying? It's either asphalt or stone. But if you've got either one of them in your dump truck, you can't bring it back to your property. Because if it sets up in there, when you got to go back to APAC every day. We have to go to APAC every single day, Monday through
APAC lets you
Thursday.
do all your cleaning there?
Absolutely. That's the only place you can legally clean. Because you can clean it out on the ground there, or the EPA can get you.
Yeah.
So you can't dump asphalt anywhere. It's illegal to dump it. So you got to go to APAC. But here's the catch-22. You can pay to dump it and pay down on the river to dump it. But APAC will let you dump it free because every year they come and mill it back up.
But they
So
allow you to vacuum your cars out and everything over there at APAC?
you can, well, in my vehicles, you don't have carpet, sir. It'd be pointless. You just sweep them out.
But you never have to clean the vehicle in any fashion
Yeah,
or
you
form other than...
over it. You just sweep it out. It's got like rubberized. It's not got carpet. Don't want carpet in
And
it.
is your business, and it doesn't have a peak season and a low season at all?
Yes, absolutely, sir.
So
Absolutely.
you've never been above 2 employees ever?
You don't. Sometimes, back what I learned 7 years ago, if you have all that overhead, you can't be competitive. So, sir, I work out on the job every single day with them, and I count myself as 2 employees. I feel that way. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I count me and my brother and my sister. As long as we've been together, we can do what 8 people can do, and we've got plenty of people in the community to testify. We come looking like skeleton crews. They asked us, how do you think you're going to be able to pay this?
So you're saying that the 2 employees you have are your brother and your sister and yourself?
My brother, my sister, and myself. But my wife works. She helps us sometimes out on the job. She runs.
Sometimes.
She runs and picks up checks. And
You
stuff.
made a response to your counsel. You mentioned Mr. West as an employee. He's not your
Well,
brother, is he?
Mr. West is the
No.
neighbor, sir. Excuse me, he's the neighbor below.
Right. I thought I heard the name West said in the.
The name West was mentioned when we asked the question about if there was any paving done for anybody.
No, there was also, there was a question that was asked different than that, and as soon as, if you want, I don't know how well you've done your notes, but as soon as he answered and said the name West, he said, could you just answer the question that I asked you to ask?
He's
And
not
so
related.
that's what I'm confused.
He's not related.
He's not related.
Sure.
I'm retired military.
You can ask your question, sir. Just ask the question.
Okay. Yeah, well, right.
And I think, were you asking whether Mr. West works for you?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Any
No.
part-time basis or anything like that?
Never in my life has he worked for me.
So if your wife is also working part-time, how come she's not considered an employee? You just now mentioned
She's
that
my
she's.
wife. She's my wife. If I ask my wife to go to the grocery store, she'll run that errand for me. I hope
Okay.
that's why she married me, sir. I pray to God she will. If she won't, I got a bad wife, sir. No offense, sir. What do you want me to tell you? She's my wife. I mean,
So you've never had more than 2 employees over this entire span of time?
no, sir.
Okay. Physical distance. Okay, that's about all I have.
Let's talk about cleaning up the asphalt. You said in your testimony that you have to clean up right away at the end of the job.
Yes.
Unless you plan perfectly, there's always asphalt left, right?
No, you make the header deeper right at the beginning. Instead of being like the competition, letting all the front of the driveways crack up right when people turn in, deepen it up. That last 8 or 10 feet, don't run it 2 inches. Run it 4 inches if you got to run the mix out.
You work it out perfectly each time.
Sir, if I got to send it back, send it to APAC. You can dump it for free there. I mean, it's
You ever use solvents when you clean up your shovels and rakes and things like that?
orange peel. It's called citrus. It's the only thing legally you can spray on the ground. It's called citrus.
Okay, so there's no residue, no problem with any solvents?
I got citrus, yeah. Plenty of citrus. I mean, 20 or 30 gallons. But, I mean, you buy it from CNC Chemical. It's citrus, like orange peel. You know what I mean by that or no?
Yeah, I know.
Like it's orange peel. I don't understand how to explain it. But it's the only thing you can, like, legally spray on the ground. Like, if you spray it, you can't get in trouble, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so when you clean your equipment, you use this and there's no residue, you never use any solvents or anything like that? No naphtha, no kerosene?
No, there's a lot of people try to spray diesel and kerosene in their beds, in their dump truck beds, sir, but no, you're going to go to Prius. And if they got big signs at APAC, you can hit their button and do it for free. Well, I spray $4 a gallon when you can do it at APAC for free. They got a lever when you run through.
Just stick with the question.
Okay.
All right, I was just curious.
You stated that you don't know what type of car your employees drive.
He drives a blue little, I want to say, a little Buick. It's in the picture. I can point out, but I don't know the make or model. No, no.
Okay.
It's a little bitty Buick, like little 2-door or 4-door.
And what's your sister drive?
She drives a little S10 truck.
Are you the owner of that truck?
Yes, I am. She drives a little brown car too, but I'm the owner of the S10 truck.
That's the 91 Chevy.
91 Chevrolet, sir. I give it to her. I need to take it out of my name. I give her the truck. I mean, it's got 400,000 miles on it. I started my business in 2004 with $192 patching holes in that truck.
Your attorney testified earlier that that was your personal use vehicle, that S10?
No, that's the Ford Ranger.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a little blue truck that looks like S10. It's a Ford Ranger.
Okay.
I have a question. The property card lists Pam Gutherie as a co-owner.
That's my wife.
Is she here?
She is.
Okay. Do either you or Ms. Gutherie, are you currently leaseholders in any residential property? Like, do you rent any other occupancies? Any other
133 Shelby Drive. My brother lives there. He's got asthma and he got put on.
Do you rent, not as the landlord, but as a tenant? Do you rent any other properties in the county?
Who, us? No, we can barely afford to rent.
Okay. And are your employees authorized to drive your personal vehicles with your insurance company? Are they listed as on your insurance company as authorized users?
Abstain from answering that because I don't know. That'd be like saying, can they drive my legal vehicle? I don't know, can they? I don't know what the insurance actually says, but I better not answer that because I don't know the truth to it, so I'm not going to.
So you don't have liability
I
insurance?
plead the fifth on that. I plead the fifth on that. Oh, yeah, I got $1 million worth of general liability, ma'am. On the business, yes, or I couldn't work on these properties. $1 million worth of general liability. If one of them people actually.
Hang on, I'm not interested in general. I'm just wondering if.
All of them
on
is
your
legally insured.
Insurance policy, I don't know what the correct word is, but do you have additional users listed on an insurance policy for these personal vehicles?
I don't know. I got to answer that. I don't know, sir. I don't want to lie to you.
Okay.
May I follow up with a question? Robert, do you know if your insurance on the 3 vehicles, the trucks that you use in the business, is it a commercial auto policy?
Oh, no, it's Raines.
No, that's not my question. Do you know the type of policy? Is it a commercial
No,
auto
sir.
policy? Do you know?
No, sir, it's just private. You know what I'm saying? They'll pay every 6 month policy. I'll stay.
So they don't know that you're using these vehicles in connection with a commercial business?
I don't know the answer to that.
Usually your insurance company will ask you about how many miles you put on a vehicle and what you're using it for.
I've been with them for years. They always send me a renewal in the mail. I ain't even been to that insurance agent in years and years. I just pay the premium and keep moving, ma'am, to be honest with you.
Could you tell me who this SUV and sports car belonged to?
Absolutely. The gray Toyota is my wife who's sitting behind me. The Camaro sitting beside it belongs to Robert Raines, the guy you're talking to.
Do you know if there's a road maintenance agreement on Hidden Falls Drive?
Well, technically,
Just a legal document?
legally documented, I have a right-of-way to my property there. And the plat book dated, you know what I'm saying? I paid $700 before I bought this property to make sure that I could have to and from access. I never dreamed that I'd
Part of
deal
your
with.
closing documents, but you bought the property a year ago. so
May
you-
I answer that question? I recall having done the title examination. There is a road maintenance covenant.
It is
My
part-
recollection.
It's
Can
in the
we
deed.
confirm that with another adjacent property owner?
What I may do, I believe that was been testified to, but I will be glad to offer, post-hearing, a copy of that. I'll send it to Mr. O'Connor.
We could take, my advice would be is that you take notice of what's on the public record. I think that if there is a road maintenance agreement, it would be recorded in the Register of Deeds, and we can go from there.
It is recorded. I'll get a copy to Mr. O'Connor.
Okay, so we'll consider that.
Any other questions from us or comments?
I guess just for clarification, Mr. Raines, you testified that you have 2 employees and they come to your house,
Yes, sir.
leave their personal vehicles there, one of your personal trucks, which is your dump truck, and they go to the
correct,
job.
sir.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to also make a statement if I could. I'm a property owner here in Buncombe County. I worked my whole life to get out of the trailer park. I worked my whole life to get out of the trailer park, to move over here, to park a few trucks at my house, where they'd quit stealing the concrete saws. They'd quit stealing my backpack blowers. It's rough to wake up and all your stuff stolen every year. I parked these trucks here. I went and got mufflers on every single one of these vehicles and got them as quiet as I can get them. I ain't asked not $1 for nary one of them to maintenance that road. And I've patched that road up I don't know how many times. I've stated to every one of them, don't worry about the road. We'll take care of the road. We ain't asked them for a nickel. I don't understand how you can live in a subdivision, because many of you probably do, and you pay monthly dues and everything. I ain't asking nary one of them behind me for $1 to keep the road up. Not nary $1. The road ain't supposed to be in question today. I've heard road after road after road from different people. Ain't nobody in here doing nothing to the road but me and MSD. I had it worked out where I could park all the stuff at MSD. They called me and got it where I couldn't park over there. The reason you got photos where it was all parked at MSD is because me and MSD got to get along. We're neighbors. I try to get along with every one of these people. I walked up to their house and knocked on their door and said, hey, how can I not offend you? Had one of them call up here to the man and stop complaining. It's in your notes. Then she offered to sell me an acre. I offered a price. She got mad and started on this.
Hold on, Mr. Raines, if you could please, and from the crowd, please let Mr. Raines finish.
My only problem is this right here. If you're gonna build a dream home down there, why are you trying to sell me an acre 2 months ago? That's my only question. My next question is, if I ain't asked you for $1, and everyone in this room that made this go road, why wouldn't you try to get along with me? I ain't asked you for $1.
Hold on, Mr. Raines, if you could make sure that you address your statements to the board.
I
This,
haven't asked nobody in this road for $1, sir. I've tried to be a good neighbor to every one of them. I've tried. I mean, I went to every one of them personally. Please forgive me if I offend you. What can I do? Mr. Levin says, hey, make them slow down. I make them go less than 10 miles per hour on the road.
Mr. Raines, if you could make sure that this isn't a closing argument and you do have an attorney, and we just, if you want to make any more statements, I'm not trying to cut you off, but
It's all right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I have nothing further at this time.
do you have any more witnesses, Mr.
No
Barnwell?
witnesses other than a closing statement.
Okay, well, let's make sure that we have all your documents that you want to enter into the evidence, so that I make sure that we have a proper thing.
The business card, the large photograph, and then the series of photographs that Mr. Raines testified to.
Business card. Okay, so I have a business card. I have. Do you know how many? One photo.
I don't have one. I have a bunch.
Oh, I know, but one was separate, right? There was one.
larger one.
Single large one somewhere.
I have 18 small photos. I don't have the large
And then 18
photo.
small photos.
And a business card.
We'll pass it down.
Here's,
Bunch of photos down there.
And Mr. Barnwell, I did in my notes have that when you were cross-examining Mr. O'Connor, you did present Petitioner's Exhibit 1, which was one of the letters.
My recollection was, though, that the staff
it's-
identified that as being as
I
part
think
of their.
it's already in, so. are
That's
you-
the reason I did.
So, okay, so we won't enter a duplicate record. Okay, so we have from the petitioner, they are offering one business card, one large photo, and 18 small photos. Mr. O'Connor, do you have any objection to that? Okay, you could enter those into the record. Accept those as evidence.
Okay, we will form, does everyone agree first that we accept those? All right, we'll accept those in the letter.
Okay. And then I guess the next thing would be to give each party an opportunity to have a closing argument. Since they have the burden, I would suggest that the petitioner go first, unless you want to waive.
I'll waive and make one statement, please.
Okay, so Josh.
All right, at this point, before we get there, would it be appropriate to ask if there are other comments?
This is, I think that what you're running into is this is not a public hearing, and essentially what happens is Mr. Barnwell and the petitioner have a right to cross-examine any witnesses. So therefore, taking just a general public comment period, while you could theoretically do that, it would just kind of create confusion on the record, because you'd have a lot of people saying things where technically they couldn't be cross-examined. And I wouldn't want to kind of spoil the or would be my recommendation not to spoil the record with just kind of statements out there that may or may not influence you. So that would be my advice as to why you would not want to have a public comment period.
Okay, so we'll follow that. I just wanted to be reasonably certain that everyone was heard.
It was our attempt that we tried to get all the people who wanted to speak in on the county's case in chief.
I believe we achieved that, but just to make it clear. All right. Josh, I guess it's up to you then.
Okay, in making a closing argument, I'll again refer to my memorandum to the board and the issues that have to be summed up here. First of all, I feel the board has been placed upon them to decide whether or not this fits within the definition of a home occupation. In addition to that, I think there's a responsibility on the board now to identify perhaps why it does or does not fall within that definition of home occupation. I think I've introduced the ambiguities in my memorandum, and I think most of those still stand. If it's ruled as not a home occupation, how are those personally owned vehicles going to be dealt with, and what remedies could be enacted to make this line up with the standard. That pretty much concludes everything that I have to present to you.
But that doesn't fall in our charge, how he used to handle his vehicles, should we take the decision that way, right?
It may come back to you at a later date, but ultimately your question here today is whether or not this meets the definition, if it meets the definition of a home occupation, then it's a valid use and he can continue as is. If it is not a home occupation, then he cannot continue doing what he's doing on the property. And that's basically what you have to decide. And also you'll need to make findings of fact to support that decision.
Okay, I think that's, everyone have that understanding there?
Yes, but
Those
Mr.
last remarks about vehicles, and that's at a future time, right? Should the decision go that way?
To
Yeah.
some extent, I think.
I think what Josh is trying to get at is that there's the issue that there are a lot of people in the county that also have vehicles titled in their name that they park in their yard. And just because you park a vehicle such as a dump truck, you may have, I mean, there are a lot of independent businesses where they may park their dump truck that they use in their vehicle. Now, to what extent you can do that, that's something I think that you need to consider, and this case kind of applies to that.
And it'll also be present in the findings of fact, it would be my understanding, is some
Yeah,
reference to that.
you need to make some finding as to, you know, what can you park and what you can't park in your yard. Now, I know Mr. Barnwell, I think, has some.
Just a second.
I think he still needs to make his closing argument.
I do.
Okay, well, we were just at a small level, all right.
Thank you for your patience. Firstly, I'm going to throw a twist into this argument. Firstly being that, number one, I do not believe that there is any, that there is a home occupation or any occupation that's being carried on upon this property. Mr. Raines has a paving business. The registered address of the business is the address in Candler, the 135 Shelby Drive. His business records, his accounting is all conducted by an accounting firm on Leicester Road. Mr. Raines has no portion of his residence utilized for business purposes. He maintains no records. He has no house phone there that he receives telephone calls from. His only communication with regard to customers is that he receives sometimes cellular telephone calls, which, based on what he states, are received outside the residence because of the reception for the telephone signal. He does not maintain a computer, business records, or conduct any business activity on this property. The only thing that he does is he parks 3 vehicles, being trucks, that have magnetic plates on them that identify the fact that the vehicles are associated with his paving business. Those vehicles, according to all the testimony, are registered in his personal name, not a corporation. The activity associated with the use of this property that is in conjunction with this business is the fact that he has 2 employees of the business that operate their personal vehicles to come to his property to pick up his vehicles and to drive those vehicles to various job locations. Those vehicles, those trucks, are returned sometimes on a daily basis, not always on a daily basis. And I don't believe there's any testimony that they're operated in and out of the property on more than one occasion on any given day, and not even 5 days per week. The violation that Mr. Raines has been cited for is that he is violating R1 in that he is conducting a business which is not a home occupation, carrying it on his property. The criteria in the standard that is applicable with regard to home occupation provide that the business cannot occupy more than 25% of the total floor area. In this instance, there's none of the floor area that's being used for business purposes. The the dwelling unit must be primarily residential. The only testimony here is that it is residential. It's not used business. Further provides that there should be no display, no outside storage, no change in the outside appearance of the building or premises or other visible evidence of the conduct of such home occupation other than an unlighted sign located on the premises and not over 2 square feet in area. Now, there certainly has not been any altercation or appearance in the business to accommodate, or the structures to accommodate this business. There are magnetic signs that are on his vehicles, and I would suggest that if anything, that he can, on a daily basis, he can take those signs off when he comes onto the property. As far as there shall not be more than 2 persons not in the residence on the premises shall be employed in connection with a home occupation. First of all, you've got to determine that there is a business there, that it is a home occupation, and then apply the test to whether there are 2 employees or more. In this instance, the only testimony before the board is the fact that there are 2 employees, whether it be a home occupation or whether it not be an occupation conducted on the property at all. The last criteria, or the next criteria, is that no traffic shall be generated by such home occupation in greater volumes than would be normally expected in a residential neighborhood. And I don't believe there's any evidence to the contrary that the traffic enters and exits not more than once per day, those 3 vehicles. Lastly, no equipment or process shall be used in such home occupation that creates noise, vibration, glare, fumes, or odors. The only testimony in regard to noise and odors was the testimony of one witness whose property is not visible from the property of Mr. Raines, who testified that he heard noises and he smelled asphalt fumes. Mr. West's testimony, I believe, contradicts that. If there is noise, it's associated with the quarry that joins this property, the MSD operations, and the APEC asphalt. I don't believe there's been any evidence whatsoever that Mr. Raines makes use of this property in such fashion as to create unusual noises or any discharge of fumes or creates anything that would be offensive to a residential neighborhood. The only thing is that he parks 3 vehicles that have magnetic signs on those that have trailers attached to them that sometimes he is pulling a tractor and or a roller in on. If the board considers that to be a violation of the ordinance, then the zoning ordinance itself needs to be more specific. The zoning ordinance needs to give greater notice to a person as to what is expected. If they wish to restrict that activity, they certainly can do so in a more viable fashion. And I think that it would be an extraordinary thing to state that based on this zoning ordinance that the parking of these 3 vehicles on the property by Mr. Raines is in violation of the R1 zoning ordinance. Thank you.
Before we started deliberations, I just want to make sure that none of the board members here have been contacted by any member wanting to discuss this. Has anybody been contacted outside the course of this hearing about this case? No? All right, and the other thing I wanted to do is make sure that we know who is voting. If any of the alternates are going to be voting in this case, or
I would ask that Lisa vote for me in the chance that I might have to leave before we're finished.
Okay, so that then you will not take play. You will basically observe and act as the alternate, and Ms. Stevens will be the voting member on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, one other thing. Just want to make sure that we don't get confused. The issue before you is whether or not this is a home occupation under the county zoning ordinance. Issues as to the road maintenance, what MSD is doing, any of that stuff is not really relevant to your considerations, and I would ask that you not consider that type of evidence. I would also ask that and we're here to work with you, that when you are going to make a finding, let us know, and let's make sure that we can make certain findings of fact to support whatever decision you all are going to come to. So, as I said, we'll help with that.
All right. Are we at the point where we can close the public hearing now?
Yes.
All right, I will so do. The public hearing is now closed. And all the evidence has been labeled to your satisfaction, Mr.
Yes, and it's been admitted on the record.
I have a question that maybe you're the one to answer this. This whole thing we're supposed to be deciding on is on home occupation, which means it says means an occupation conducted entirely within dwelling. Well, the entire discussion has been that it isn't conducted within that dwelling. I'm confused.
That's a deliberation issue, sounds like to me,
Is it?
right?
I mean, it's a zoning you all are tasked with interpreting the zoning ordinance.
Right.
And that obviously is a question. A, is there a home occupation? And if it's not a home occupation...
Am I correct assuming, though, that we're supposed to be basing all of our deliberation on this definition?
Well, I think to make your final decision, but
Yeah.
your deliberation should be based on the facts that
Interpretate,
have been presented to you and how you apply those facts to the zoning, to the definition. Yes.
But what I'm saying is there's no other definition I'm taking into consideration.
No.
Okay.
Because remember that there was previous, that Josh did say that they investigated this as a warehouse, storage area type
I
usage,
understand.
and they did not find any violation in
Right.
that.
Okay.
Shall we proceed then?
Proceed. Move on.
So, we closed,
Public hearing is
public
closed.
hearing is closed.
Right.
Discussion among board.
We now have, our next step will be finding of fact.
Yes, and we did give you a sample, like we normally do with a sample, but you will probably going to need, depending on which way you go on the findings, you're going to probably need to make findings of fact in terms of, in terms of whether this is a business or whether whether the business is being conducted outside, and certain facts to that matter. You're going to need to make a finding one way or the other.
Just to be clear, initially, the NOV, or the letter to the complaint to him back in June, his argument was that it was a home occupancy, and then Stephen Barnwell's arguing that it is not a home occupancy. That's where I'm confused, because this letter states that your statements appear to indicate you believe your use of the property is aligned with the definition of a home occupation. And you're saying that it's not a home occupation.
Firstly, I want to respond. I believe, based on what the staff has said, that notice of violation there has no relevancy in regard to the board's consideration. I point out the fact that Mr. Raines was not represented by counsel when he responded to that. And I'm not sure that Mr. Raines knew what the definition of a home occupation was at that time.
Okay.
My point is that, number one, I don't believe there is any occupation being carried on, any business being carried on the property that would be in violation of the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
But secondly, even if there is, that it certainly would be covered by the definition of home occupation.
Okay, thank you.
And I will clarify that on that June 17th letter, just a point of clarification, typically we send out a fact-finding letter,
Right.
which is what you're looking at there.
Right.
The actual notice of violation for the home occupation wasn't issued until later, so his
Right.
response is not to
Okay.
a notice of violation.
Remain necessary.
You have comments?
Are we ready to discuss?
We're ready to discuss.
Okay.
It's done in closed session.
No, it's done and open.
I was going to give you the opportunity to among yourselves.
If anybody wants to go, they're free to, but unfortunately, we
In that
don't.
instance, we wish you would prevail, but that's not the way it runs.
Well, first of all, it occurs to me when I read through our ordinance that this is sort of the reverse of a variance application. When we hear variances, the applicant is charged to prove that they have hardship. And we have a hard time finding hardship in most cases of variances because economic hardship is not a hardship, or convenience or lack of constructability is not a hardship. My view of this case is that that the contention by the opposition is trying to show that that this application represents hardship for them, and I believe this. I believe they have successfully, to some degree, showed that this application represents hardship for them. So, my personal belief is that the closing argument by the petitioner's side asks us to suspend belief or suspend credibility in addressing the issues of the definition of a home occupancy. So I'd like to go through what I see as obvious violations of that point by point, okay? I think in number one, it's hard for us to argue based on the evidence that we've heard that they're in violation of that. But number two, I think we've reasonably seen that outside storage of vehicles is a part of this situation. They've got, okay, we don't have access or evidence to the use of the inside of the house, but it's clear that the outside of the house is being used for storage, and it has changed the outside appearance of the building or premises. The paving, the presence of large vehicles, the dumpster.
The tires, the cans of tar next to the
So
storage
number
building.
two, if we're only looking for one point where it violates, there's one, okay? Number three, just to paraphrase, no more than two persons not in residence. We have been offered no evidence that there are no more than two employees. We haven't been offered pay stubs or anything that verifies that this rather subjective issue of the number of employees is in fact true and permanent. So the burden of proof being on the petitioner, I find that lacking in number three. In number four, I think we haven't seen live representation of the number of trucks back and forth. But if it can be said that number one is true, that it's a dwelling place and there are two people living in that the constant traffic of up to 5 vehicles per day, it lacks in credibility to me. That's normal traffic for a 2-person residence. So I find number four to be an issue. And then number five, of course, there's equipment. There's equipment being stored. And I think a dump truck, no matter whose name it is, or a trailer, or maybe even it could be said a dumpster, could be considered equipment. Now, we don't have access to whether it creates noise or fumes or glare, but we have pictures that show that equipment is stored on the premises. So 4 out of the 5, I see evidence that suggests that this is not a home occupation. Now, a couple other further points. Well, I think, actually one more very crucial point. And I think is that my general sense is that this application is an attempt to use a small opening in the language of our code to run a business in a zone that doesn't allow this type of business. And luckily, for the residents of this county, we have some leeway to make some subjective rulings where we think it's warranted. And in our case, in our own code, section 78-623, section C, states, and I'm quoting directly, the board shall not be limited to consideration of only such evidence as would be admissible in the court of law, which I interpret to mean that there's room for us to make some subjective judgment in this case, and given the fact that it looks to me to be quite obvious that this is an attempt to sort of circumvent our zoning limitations for an R1 zone, Finally, the petitioner has outright admitted that he's running a business here. It's a business that he's claiming is limited in scope to 25% of the square footage of his building or less. And I get that, but there's a business being run here, and it looks to me on all counts, on certainly 4 of the 5 counts, to be in excess of what is the definition of a home occupation on those points.
I'd also like to add that we are setting a precedent possibly for future hearings that we might want to consider.
Yeah, just be careful, since you're not voting on this.
Yeah, that's,
You're not, there's any arguments one way or the other.
Okay.
okay, other comments or?
I think the property was purchased with the intent of running the business on the property. And if that was the intent, the property should have been purchased in an unzoned district without an R1 zoning on it.
I wish to make an objection on the record, because there is absolutely no evidence of what the purpose of the
Okay.
property being purchased for is.
I would tend to
Okay.
agree with that.
Sorry.
That I think that you did, whatever their intent was, I think that my advice to the board would be to consider this purely as what is happening on the property as is. I do agree with Mr. Barnwell, so I would not
Okay.
consider that.
I guess, I think the spirit, the reason we have home occupancy type of business is so that people can conduct relatively unobtrusive businesses that don't affect the neighbor or the neighborhoods, and and it doesn't change the character of the neighborhood. It doesn't alter things, and that has been a way so that even though it's someone's residence, they can continue. They can also. It's kind of a little flexibility there, and in this situation, it makes a lot of sense economically for the routes that are being taken and the options being taken. But to me, it does have an impact on the neighborhood, and the spirit of the law seems to be, in violation. It seems like almost any business could be run virtually right now, legally without records and an actual office space, and have it be on a server or have it be on, and almost every business could be said to be a home business in today's world. But I think the spirit of this provision was that, again, the impact it has on the neighborhood, and that the people feel that it's still a residential neighborhood. And I think there was definitely opinions expressed here that they didn't feel that that was respecting the character of the neighborhood. So even though I appreciate the economic situation and the reasons for it, I have a hard time making that leap of faith.
A home occupation should not impact on the neighborhood. It should be that. It should be within the home. But you wouldn't, the fact that there is business going on, being taken in this home, you would never know it by just driving by. And I don't see that.
That's what I said.
I agree with what she just said, that if you can drive by and not realize there's a business there, then you can pretty much run a business in your home. It's in his situation, it's out where everybody can see it, and I just think it's a poor choice to try to run a business in that type of neighborhood.
Okay, with the comments that have been made, I think it's clear where we're going. We need to adopt a finding of fact. And John, could we append those 5 observations you made to the finding of fact?
Let me participate and help.
Okay.
So we can help clarify this, so that we'll have a decent thing in case this is appealed. Huh? Oh, okay. Well, I don't know how they're going to. I understand. But no, we'll send you a copy. Okay, let's go through, and why don't we draft out kind of what we want, and then you can adopt once we all kind
Okay.
of, so obviously I have number one where everybody's got their notices, everybody's been sworn, and number two, I guess we'll say 1 through 6 is all proper. And I guess number 7 is one that you'll need to make a finding on, or at least we'll need to run, is to petitioner stores how many vehicles.
7.
Well, I understand, but would you say that all 7 of those vehicles were actually part of his business, or would you say that the evidence only has shown that there are 3 vehicles that he claims? I'm just trying to make sure, because remember.
Well, if you look at the tax records, how many he owns.
Right.
That he pays taxes on.
Right, but just because, I mean, I could own 8 vehicles, and I could possibly park 8 vehicles on my property, and I don't use any of those vehicles for a business. Or I could, let's say, own 4 vehicles, and I use 2 of those for business. I think my recommendation to you is that there at least there's substantial evidence on the record there are at least 3 vehicles that are being used for the.
Yeah,
I would be comfortable with saying at least 3, potentially 7.
I have more of a problem with the trailers and the rollers and the tractors.
Well, would you like me to put that the petitioner stores 3 vehicles?
And allied equipment, or
3 vehicles.
He stated roller,
trailers,
trailers,
a tractor, and a roller.
Yeah, we tried to get at that titling, if you will remember, and he.
Well, sure, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're all titled in his name.
They are.
But I don't think that that's.
He definitely says the three.
Well, you have 3 trucks, but I mean, clearly, what if he just took the sign off the truck?
Right.
I mean, you kind of. I mean, there's got to be something more than just parking your truck on the side of your house that constitutes that, or anybody who has a dump truck is going to get cited.
Right.
So.
I mentioned that 2 of the vehicles, one was his personal vehicle and one was his wife's.
Right.
So everything else, he obviously
Yeah,
uses for his business.
So I'll say petitioner stores up to 5 vehicles titled in his name, so 5 plus a trailer, tractor, and roller, so that would be 8 vehicles.
There's a mixer there too.
So do you want to say up to 8 vehicles?
Yeah,
And
up to.
we'll put the trailer, a tractor, a tractor, and a roller, asphalt roller. Does that?
How I said before is at least 3, potentially 8 vehicles used in the operation of his business.
If you'll excuse me, I need to leave.
Okay, so I have at least 3 up to 8 vehicles, including a tractor, trailers, and an asphalt roller.
Right.
Are stored in his own name or stored on the property in question. Does that sound good to everybody?
Right.
And then with the word stored, so that is evidence, everyone comfortable with the word stored? It's stored there?
Yes.
I don't
Okay.
store, maintain, keep, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking, we want to be technical here, so stored is
I would
fine.
definitely use the word storage,
Yeah.
because
That's what's in the
That's
language.
In the verbiage in the thing.
Right.
They're stored.
What about the commercial, number 8, we have the commercial dumpster. Does anybody have any strong feelings about that, one way or the other? Because if not, I'd say strike it if it's not relevant to why you're voting, or if.
What is a commercial dumpster?
Well, I mean, it's not like a trash can.
Yeah,
I
it's,
know, but what I'm saying is, it's his personal
Okay,
vehicle, so how can you?
so we'll delete number 8, so you guys don't have a problem with us getting rid of number 8?
We didn't really
It's just a
delve
matter of
into that.
semantics.
I'm not comfortable with.
No, that's
the
fine.
information.
Yeah.
That's as I said, we just tried to come up with some draft things. Number 9, did the fact that he paved a majority of his property, did that have anything, or does that have anything to do with the decision?
We didn't discuss
Yes.
it. and we-
It does
Well,
with
it
me.
changes the outside
'Cause it-
appearance of the premise.
Absolutely.
But we don't know that it's a majority of his property.
You can,
That wasn't
Paved a
established.
portion?
A portion, you could say portion, that's fine, but majority, I don't think you can.
paved, it was,
We can make that.
But is there, I don't know.
Created a parking area
Can we
for
talk about
multiple,
that?
multiple
Is there
he
vehicles.
any?
paved a parking lot in front of his
Or
house.
would you like to say that created a parking
He
lot?
created a
That's why I asked
storage
about that
parking
road.
yard.
All of a sudden, now you've got a parking lot on the.
Because some could do a patio, you know.
I mean,
So
they-
the petitioner has paved or created a parking lot?
The issue with that is that, I mean, I would stray away from that just because there's not any kind of injunctive relief per the
Okay.
zoning
Okay,
ordinance.
that's fine.
Yeah, okay, so we'll stay away from that one too?
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Right.
We have number 10.
Is there no maximum parking in R1 zone, no maximum number?
Our ordinance addresses only minimum parking standards in all districts.
Is there a minimum front yard required?
Well, I can just tell you from experience, that can get to be really messy as when
Yeah.
you're trying to decide what each thing is. Petitioners, crew members, or I guess we would want to say
Employees.
employees,
Yeah.
meet at the property to drive the vehicles to other job sites.
To job sites.
To job sites. All right. You also have the stipulation of 10 trips. Do you guys want to try to make a finding of fact based on the number of trips? Based on the evidence you have, clearly you have 2 employees coming on, 3 vehicles leaving out, that's 5. Then you have 3 vehicles coming back, that's 8. The employees leave, that's 10. Plus then, however, then you can assume that his wife may leave the property or whatnot. So you may make a finding, I think, based on the evidence of the number of trips, based on what's been said.
Yeah.
Which is
Can
probably in
we
excess of
generalize
15.
that employees regularly?
Well, I think that you do, I think what you want to state is that, based on the finding of the fact of at least 10 trips, or maybe you want to say 11 trips a day,
Exceeds
approximately
normal.
11.
That it exceeds the normal.
The only thing we have to keep in mind is when we're looking at that normal, and the reason for submitting an engineering study is that it's an average. It's placed on a curve, so we have to be very careful about where we draw what's
Right,
normal.
because he uses, let's say one person uses it multiple amounts of time, one person may never leave their house at all. So it all is kind of a big
Can't we
average.
state this without the number of trips, because we're getting into morass here, because remember, asphalting doesn't go on in the wintertime. If somebody did a yearly average and you get into that.
And the
then
people that
you're-
Okay,
live up
well,
behind them are
I'm just
invalids.
suggesting, so what would you like to say, though, that? The number of trips exceed,
Well, the traffic generated by the occupation is in greater volume than a
Isn't
normal.
congruous
but I think
with-
that's a conclusion.
Okay.
I think that you need to have a fact to support that conclusion, or I think you need to make a finding
Right.
that, to support that conclusion, if that's a conclusion you want to make.
I guess I'm really, we've done before, we've had traffic studies, and it seems like the traffic studies, in order for it to be in violation, I mean, it seems like everyone has to, be just traveling constant. I mean, we've gone like, how much a road can handle. I don't know how many of you remember those discussions here, but there seemed to be outrageous amount is considered to be acceptable. So I think the issue here is more the fact that it's business oriented.
Well, I think, though, that what you want to make out, though, is that if you're going to say that they violated, let's say, number,
Yeah.
what is it,
4.
number 3 or number 4, that there's excessive trips, that you make some finding that there's a minimum of.
That there's a minimum of 11 trips to and from the property during business,
During paving season.
during paving season.
I think that would be.
Trips are business oriented as opposed to.
Right.
I
Well,
don't
it
think it
doesn't-
really
it
matters
doesn't
whether
call
it's
out to
business,
that,
this one
so-
use is that there's a minimum of 11 trips.
Yeah, during a paving workday, there's a minimum
There's a minimum
of
of
10
11
to 8 to
trips.
10 trucks,
8 to 10 trips?
8 to
No,
10.
It's
trips.
more than that.
Trips.
Is there a,
There's 2, 3, that's 5, and then 3, 2, that's 10. And then if she leaves the house at all, that's 11.
So you want to go with 10?
or less?
11.
11? You think she always leaves the house?
That's-
Well, her daughter goes to school.
Yeah, I'd say 11.
I really think we should generalize instead of putting down numbers.
But we
Yeah.
have a finding.
We
of fact.
have a traffic study.
I think that you need to come up with something that says, I mean, if you're gonna make a finding, if you're gonna reach a conclusion that there is an excessive amount of trips for a residential use.
We have
I
to
think
state a
based on the
number.
evidence, you have to make some kind of finding as to how many trips that this property is using to support your decision. I mean, that's-
Except as a finding of fact, what we're saying is the amount of traffic per day is what it takes to economically support a paving business.
I think
That's what the finding of fact was. We don't know exactly how many, but we know that they are doing a paving business that is the hub of it in terms of transportation is that residence.
But for a home occupation though, if I drive, let's say I have a home acupuncture business, and I drive to my home acupuncture business, I'm a client, I actually come to the property, I get out, I go to that business, I do my thing, and I leave. That would be considered a trip.
Right.
So,
That's why I'm kind of backing off of this one person.
I mean, it's up to you all. All I'm saying though is, I guess my advice to you is if you're gonna find
Yeah.
that there's an excessive amount of trips,
Right.
you need to find something that, from the evidence that's presented, to hang your hat on,
Right.
if that makes any sense.
Well,
All right, then how about the secondary language in that number 4, which says, and any needed parking must be off the street and other than in a required front yard.
Okay.
So what we do know in finding a fact without getting into subjective number of trips is that additional parking in the residence had to be provided in order to conduct this home business.
Were you saying that the parking was conducted in the front yard?
Well, actually, I don't know where the parking was. I didn't see
The parking is, I will point out, the parking is not in the front yard, and that's just an anomaly in our zoning ordinance. The front yard is determined by the architectural front of the building. So from photographic evidence, it appears that it's located in the side yard of the structure, as odd as that may seem, given its proximity to the road.
Well, can we get at it this way? Employees regularly drive to this?
I guess all I'm trying to say is that I don't think if you have a home occupation, I think that you can have 2 employees. I mean, I think that you can have employees come to your house and work out of your, I think what it has to be is the volume of traffic is gonna, the volume of traffic on this one road is gonna be greater than.
I think we need to state there's a volume of traffic, because we have been given evidence of the volume of traffic coming
Okay.
in and out. And if we're gonna say that it's more than normal, we're gonna have to put it in there.
The one thing I would say is there a way for us to cite that evidence specifically?
Well, I mean, what will happen is that they'll make a finding of fact, and then the judge will, if this is appealed, the judge will look at all the testimony that's been recorded, the
Right.
judge will look at the documents that have been presented, and, you know, as I said, I counted a minimum of 10 trips.
Okay.
I don't know whether that is, but then,
Okay.
Okay, are we comfortable with putting the 10 trips in?
Well, isn't 10 allowed?
well, it says that a 10, you're right. Mr. Raines, I'm gonna ask you very nicely to not comment on this.
Okay.
Okay, I understand that this is probably gonna be a painful experience for you.
No, it's not. I'm sorry. I understand. I respect your procedure.
I'm just gonna ask you to respect the quorum, thank you. I'm just saying 10 business trips, and then if you consider someone else driving on and off the property.
Okay.
Okay.
So paving, 11 trips.
So in places of business, when we have come before us, they have the minimum parking. Do we have a maximum parking? No.
No, our ordinance doesn't speak to maximum
That's
parking
why we have
standards.
that's why we're
Okay.
here.
In addition, for a home occupation, given that it's not a specific type of business, there wouldn't be any minimum parking standards dictated by
Right.
a home occupation, just that it meets the parking standards for a single-family residence.
Okay.
You know, one thing we seem to be, I keep hearing this, I mean, it's okay to have a home business.
Right.
It's okay to have a sign out in front of your house that you've got a home business.
Right.
It's okay to have people come to it. That's fine, you know. It's, the thing that's killing this, I think we can't go through every item and say, you know, I don't see but just a couple of items in here that are really the kicker. And mostly, if he had a nice warehouse or even a bad warehouse down there where he could store this equipment, he wouldn't have outside storage. It's the driving by it and seeing the business. It's right out there in front of everybody that's causing the problem.
Number 2 is the big one on that.
So number 2 is really, I mean, as I said, if that's the reason that there's the storage of outside stuff, if that's the main basis for your decision, then so be it. I mean, if you don't want to go into the other areas, that's fine too.
And I don't see that the ordinance addresses the traffic.
Yeah.
Well, as it
Properly,
says,
maybe the way we'd like it to, but it doesn't.
no traffic shall be generated by such a home occupation in greater volumes than would normally be expected in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah. It's real vague, and
Very
as you
vague.
mentioned, there are many, many residential businesses. Say someone has an accounting thing, or you know,
A chiropractor. I think you see a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, so they're going to have more than 8 or 10 clients a day. So
Right.
I don't really see that as a huge issue.
So it's really the storage issue.
And the change of the
The
outside
impact on the
appearance.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the visible evidence of the conduct
Of a business.
of the business.
It's all the stuff that's
Very
happening
clear.
outside,
Yeah.
with the employees meeting outside,
Yeah.
employees coming, parking, and basically using it as a staging area. If,
Yes.
if that's what the issue is. All right.
Put those words in staging area. That kind of
And
captures.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
The ordinance may need to address more commercial vehicles.
Yeah.
But that's
That's another ballgame.
That's another ballgame. That's right.
All right, so we're going to scrap the language about the trips.
I think
And then we're going to just say the employees meet at the residence as a staging area for daily business. Okay. Is there any other facts that you all think are important that you want?
John, can we go back to your five points? I think
He
you
went
captured
Well, we-
most.
on. That's what he was just
Yeah.
doing.
Do you want to state that he uses the parking area for employee parking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should add that, yeah, that's a fact, it's been established.
How does that weigh against the home occupation, so we can clarify that?
Employee parking is allowed, you're just not allowed more than 2 employees. The way I read it, right?
That don't reside in the house.
Right.
And what about a chiropractor or somebody? I mean, can they have people come to their house and park? I mean,
We've had that issue, especially in areas that have had zoning longer than other areas of the county. And we have seen those types of business, CPAs, not chiropractors specifically.
right. I mean, anybody, but.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything about parking, but I would say that if you wanted to relate that to, no, there shall be no display, outside storage, no change in the outside appearance of the premises, that you kind of have daily parking. I'm just, as I said, I'm just giving you guys ideas. You can take them for what they're worth.
I think this visible evidence of the conduct of the business.
The staging area.
Of such home occupation is paramount here.
Would You guys say that the employees use the residence as a parking and meeting area.
Okay,
That's okay.
That's okay for them to do
allowed.
that. See, the problem is what's going on outside of the house.
Well, that's what I
Right.
said.
So they're using the parking lot to meet,
For the staging area.
Stage.
staging.
It's
It's,
equipment.
once again, it's not like they go inside of the business to
Right.
discuss it. Everything's kind of
It's
done
everything outside.
everything's outside. That's what they
The-
said.
Yeah.
However, these trucks are
They're-
part,
yeah.
Exactly.
Everything is going on
But the whole
outside.
thing is
That's
that
the
this is,
problem.
that you all, I mean, from what it sounds like to me, that this is a staging area.
Mhm.
That this is a staging area for what?
It's a business and it's totally outside the dwelling.
Right.
And I made the comment about the warehouse, but you couldn't build a warehouse. That's too big. It's got to be attached to the house.
But you could build an accessory structure, a garage. Now, if they had a garage on the property.
Yeah, but now you can't have a business that's not attached to your home.
But he's not, he's,
It says the conduct entirely within a dwelling or accessory structure.
he could have,
Right.
he could run it out of a garage.
So,
Accessory
Okay.
structure, right.
so
And we see that pretty often with like cabinet making shops where the individual has an accessory
Have
building that
automotive
they
repair
conduct
shops,
business
stuff like
in.
that.
all right.
Right.
So I guess my only other question to you is, number two, I think number two is the fact that it's a staging area, and that's kind of what you want your facts to show. Number three, that's not really an issue because there's only 2 employees.
Right.
Number 4, the traffic generated, is that something else you all don't want to make a finding of fact on to support that?
I think it's too close to call.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, I think
If you're going by
I think we
number.
found by fact that there is traffic generated by the employees of the company as opposed to traffic generated by the patrons of the company.
Right.
Which,
I mean, would that matter, though? Suppose you did telemarketing out of your house, your employees came and parked outside the front of your house. I'm just playing devil's advocate here and went in.
well, and we beat this around, but the language is very subjective. It says would normally be expected in a residential neighborhood. I would
The
notice,
vehicles
if
with
I
the
lived in a
trailers
residential
on it and all
neighborhood,
that
I
is
would
not-
notice excessive traffic by this type of business that's not normal to a bookkeeper who's running a business out of her garage.
The
And so
fact
I
that
think that's
the
a,
traffic is commercial vehicles,
Yes.
commercial trucks going to and from, that would be
That
the,
catches one's eye.
It says no traffic that by such home occupation and greater volumes, though it doesn't say what type.
what about an
Right.
excessive amount of commercial vehicles?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The volume of commercial vehicle.
the volume of commercial vehicles in and out of the property.
Because that's what's saying, in a residential neighborhood, you don't usually see a lot of commercial traffic in a residential
Usually
neighborhood.
don't have
Generated from
da-
one home.
daily.
On a
Right.
daily basis.
From the same residence.
All right, what about noise, vibration, fumes? Are you all?
That was on anecdotal.
So you're not gonna make,
well, the presence of equipment wasn't, that was visual. We
That's true.
saw
The equipment
Presence
is
of equipment,
issue number 5.
no matter who owns it.
we've already made a finding of fact, saying that there's trailers, rollers.
Right.
Right. All right, and then number 6, I don't think that's applicable.
No.
So, your finding of facts would be, it's gonna be a mess. 1 through 6 as written. Number 7 would be at least 3 up to 8 vehicles titled in his personal name are being stored on the property, including a trailer, a tractor, and an asphalt roller. Number 8 would be deleted, number 9 would be deleted. Number 10, petitioner's employees, on paving workdays, petitioner's employees meet at the property to drive the vehicles to job sites. Next one would be, I guess that would be, that's 8, that's 9, this would be finding number 10, would be the employees meet at the residence as a staging area on paving business days. employees use the residence as a parking area and meeting area on paving business days, and that there is an excessive amount of commercial vehicles coming in and out of the property. So that would be 11 and 12, so there should be 12 findings of fact. Does anybody have anything else? Did you get that, Jillian? I mean, I'm taking notes too, so.
It'll be fine.
Okay. So now that we've got the findings of fact, now it is, let's do a draft of what your conclusions are going to be. So these are kind of your findings based on the facts, what your conclusions are. Number one would be that you have jurisdiction to hear this matter, that you use the definition of home occupation as set forth in 78, 581 to evaluate this appeal, and that there is, and then, or is not a display of outside storage or change in the appearance.
There is.
So, okay, there is. And that the home occupation is not conducted entirely within the dwelling or accessory structure?
Correct.
It's not.
It's not.
Not at all.
It's not.
Do you want to add a finding that the traffic generated is greater than that of a normal residential area?
The commercial traffic, yes.
I think we have to say just traffic because this says
Yeah.
The traffic?
traffic.
Okay. Do you want to make any findings on other that? It's number, because we have number 2 and number 4, number 5. And do you want to make it the equipment, the paving equipment is visible from the lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That would seem to be all the findings that you would need to make. So then you'll make your findings of fact, or you make your findings of fact, now you've made your conclusions of law. And then based on the findings of fact and conclusion of law, I move that the appeal to overrule the decision of the zoning administrator dated August 16, 2011 is either granted or denied. Denied? All right. I know this probably is like, wow, we just spent all this time, more time figuring out the word. But, I mean, this is really where the finding of facts are going to be. So let's get the exhibits. I would say Exhibit A would be the notice of violations and correspondence to Ronnie Raines. Exhibit B would be emails. Emails. Exhibit C would be the certificate of zoning compliance. Exhibit D would be the 6 photographs dated 12/28/2010. Exhibit E would be the May 25th, 2011 photographs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Exhibit F would be the June 27th, 2011 pictures. Exhibit H would be the picture submitted by Mr. Raines on June 17th, 2011. Exhibit I would be the Documents submitted by Brian Greiner and Jackie Weinrich, dated 6/3/2011. Exhibit IJ would be the tax records for Mr. Raines. Exhibit K would be the property card. Can someone just give me a copy of your, if one has an extra copy of the property card without a bunch of notes on it?
Yeah, without a bunch of notes on it.
Do not doodle, thank you. That'll work. Exhibit K will be the property card. Exhibit I, or L.
L.
Will be the.
Looks like an I.
L will be the pictures submitted
I'll look at it.
by Ms. Weinrich. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pictures submitted by Ms. Weinrich. L. Oh yeah, you all referred to this, right?
Right.
Okay, so this will be
M.
Exhibit M will be the, I guess will be.
Tax aerial.
Tax map of the subdivision and property in question. Exhibit M. Exhibit N will be the memorandum submitted by Ms. Levin of the traffic observations. M. Okay.
That was N.
N, that's right.
That's an N. One hump.
N is in Nancy. Okay, Exhibit N, O. Exhibit O will be the business card.
Card, yeah.
Exhibit P will be the one large photo. And then Exhibit P.
Q.
18.
18.
18 pictures submitted by petitioner. All right. Is there any other exhibits?
The staff memorandum, or?
Yes, let's get the staff memorandum. And then Q.
R.
R. Which will be Josh's staff memorandum, if you could hand that to me.
Sesame Street moment.
Thank you. All right. Is there anything else?
You got all the exhibits?
You got tax receipts and property cards, those, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we got everything.
And did you get the certificate of zoning compliance?
Yes. All right. I guess you all are now ready to make your motion.
All right. Who's going to make a motion for the finding of fact?
I'll make it.
Okay, John.
Mr. Chair, based on the evidence presented to this board, including exhibits A through Q,
R.
A through R, and testimony given by staff, the petitioner, and other witnesses, I move that this board adopt the following findings of fact. Numbers 1 through
12.
10, including the handwritten numbers 11 and 12, is that right?
Well, I think that you could say 1 through 12.
1 through 12.
1 through 12.
All right.
12.
I move that the board adopt the following findings of fact, numbers 1 through 12.
That's it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to adopt the findings of fact. Any further discussion? No. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion's carried unanimously.
I move based on the foregoing findings of fact that as a matter of law, the board finds that, number 1, the board has jurisdiction to hear and decide appeals of interpretations of the county zoning ordinance and decisions made by the county zoning administrator. Number 2, the definition of home occupation in section 78-581 of the Buncombe County Code of Ordinances was used to evaluate this appeal. Number 3, that there is a display, outside storage, or change in the outside appearance of the building or premises, or other visible evidence of the conduct of such a home occupation. And number 4, the home occupation is not conducted entirely within the dwelling or accessory structure on the premises.
And then we've got
And then number 5 would be the traffic
Traffic is
generated.
normally generated
is greater than that of a normal residential area.
Okay.
And then
Number
six,
5.
paving equipment is visible from the lot.
I didn't write this down.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that would be it.
That's got them all.
Okay.
There should be 6.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Okay,
Now you need to,
okay, now this, okay, based on the finding facts and conclusions of law, I move that the appeal to overrule the interpretation of the zoning administrator dated
August 16th.
August the 16th is hereby denied. Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Does that conclude our business for today?
That concludes all the business you have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Attorney, for your expert help.
is there a little bit different